Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. I'm very excited. It's my first time designing for a Drupal conference, and because Patrick and I, we connect like almost like half years ago, I guess. So it's a long time ago, and then we had a lot of like back and forth about the date, about the scheduling. I'm very happy to be here, and also I know like it's people just have to lunch, so there could be like food coma, including myself. So I'm trying to be energetic and try to share the juicy part of the presentation of the content. Yeah. So today's topics about design for longevity, service innovation through system thinking. So it's like it's more like a work in progress, like content. And I'm not sure how close connect with website design or digital design, but I think there's a connection about human needs, about human behavior. So I'm happy to share that. So I quickly introduce myself. I'm Sheng Hong. I love design. I live in the world of design. I mean, design for me is like water. I'm like a fish. I swim in the water. I love it, and I just like cannot stop. And today's project is like the things I'm going to share with you guys. It's about my side project. So it's a little bit connect with the previous job, but mostly connect my passion. So I'm very happy to share with you guys. My background is like very cross-disciplinary. So before I back to MIT, I actually worked with design consultant, IDEO, and design continuum for 6 years. And then after 6 years, very lucky to back to MIT, major in business and engineering, and work with a lot of different labs, like MIT Ideation Lab, H Lab, MIT X Pro, government lab, and Office of Sustainability. And then for me, like people asking, oh, why you designing you want to pursue academia? And for me, I feel like it's a lifestyle choice. It's a lifestyle change. And I love it. I can't just like, oh, I enjoy the process of it. And some of the projects, for example, MIT X Pro, it's a MIT online program. And then it's so cool, like I don't know how I get involved to this, but the idea is like, we want to redesign the whole online course experiences. And that's like before COVID. So it's like, oh wow, it's pretty interesting project, and nobody designed this before. And so I told them, yes, I would love to do this, but I want to sign a contract with MIT. I want to make sure as designer, I can truly contribute the power of design, not just make the website or the visual beautiful or sexy. So I really want to design the whole content at the strategic level. And then after 6 months, it works. We sign the contract together, we have agreement, and at the point also COVID hits. So everything truly online after that. And then very happy after, I guess like 1 semester hard work with a professor at Crowley and all the TA, RA work together, we come up with a very cool learning toolkit called Inspiration Design Toolkit. So we have online version, offline version. So the idea is like how people from industry have like professional experiences to learn some interesting concept idea and use the process of design, creative process. I'm very happy like after we launched this like a year ago, almost 2 years ago, sorry. So we got a lot of feedback from students. They create their own toolkit, and then some people even share this on the LinkedIn and tag me and also the course design team. So I'm very excited because you can really see like design truly make an impact, not just like stay in like an aesthetic level. So it's really something different, change. And then also as designer, I really love make stuff. So I also love tangible stuff. So I used a recycled bottled water and designed a modular lamp. This is like 3 years ago. And you can see that I do this in the middle of night to kind of sneak into the MIT makerspace to do the stuff and do the GoPro recording myself to assemble the product. And also, before COVID, also had opportunity to redesign MIT campus tour. So think about when we go to the campus tour, like say your prospective students, your high school kids, or your visitors, you want to visit MIT, what's the experiences looks like, feels like. So we designed the whole experiences from the perspective of the school, from the perspective of faculty, perspective of students. Everyone has different needs when they go to the campus, right? So how do we design the services that can cater different people's needs? So that's also an interesting project. We worked together for 1 semester, and now it's like also become the real project. They really make a change after COVID. And now I'm like, this is my current side project. It's like translate the book, Dieter Rams' book, like a Bible for industrial designer, to translate from English to Chinese version. And I realized Dieter Rams has very important, like 10 design principles, right? What is good design? And I think about, oh, that could be some interesting thing to connect with this conference, because when we think about the digital design or virtual design or website design, graphic design, we actually think about human, right? People's needs. And then what if we put that needs at the lens of like design for longevity? And that'll be something cool as an inspirational piece of work to share with everyone. So today, I'm trying to break out the, sorry, this is a 3 section. So I guess I will share about myself, some project I did at HLab, and HLab, what's HLab do in the past, and what are the research we're working on. And then I will share with my, part of my PhD research project, Design for Longevity, kind of design for retirement. Like talk about money, talk about business, talk about people's future. And then we have some discussion, Q&A. So that's kind of like today's like structure. I know it's like, it's an hour-long talk. I will try to like have different pace, you know, different stories, and try to not get too boring. I know it's like, when I join the conference, it's really hard for me to stay focused after 30 minutes. Right? So I've tried to make it very conversational, very informal, and also very casual. So HLab, we established almost like 20 years ago. Now we have 29 scientists full-time, and most of our funding is actually from industry. So people from multiple backgrounds, like I'm designer, also known as troublemaker. And we have, you know, designer always like troublemaker because always think outside the box, right? And we have data scientists, we have human factor, we have engineers, so it's pretty cross different domain industry. So as the only designer in the team, I'm very lucky because I always try to provide something different to the lab, to the team. And you can see like I took these photos. This is like, we did this every summer. So we call Omega. It's like we invite like high school kids with our 85 plus lifestyle panels. So people above 85 years old come to the lab. We do like 1-day design workshop. So the idea is that you can see like different generation. They have huge generation gap. So I think this is cool. What is this about? It's useless. So you can see the interesting conversation between different people. So it's very fun, interesting, like dynamic workshop. I love it, and I really miss that. This is kind of before COVID. Now we do want to bring everything back to in person. So it's very different. You do this in person versus hybrid or like online. And then in HLab, we have like 4 kind of design, 4 portfolio. We focus on transportation, livable community. So we have like one iconic project is we call the Volkswagen Beetle's car called Miss Daisy. So we try to understand senior people's driving behavior, their emotion expression when they're driving. So now it's an old model, but now we put most of the sensor on Tesla to test like people driving behavior associated with age, their emotion, their gender. So very interesting project portfolio. And then talk about home logistics and services. So I'm also part of the project. It's like we think about what's the smart home looks like, feels like in the future. So I have different home taxonomy framework, 5 different levels of homes. Is home understand you? Now we have a lot of like IoT devices at home, right? Everything is connected. So what do you mean by smart home, right? How smart you want home be like can read your mind, know your next step, or is that you have fully control? And what's the problem with data privacy, right? Like when we design the smart home project, a lot of people have concern about we want to improve the system, but at the same time, we don't want to reveal our identity, our data. So that's always interesting tension we want to explore, we need to explore. Well-being and caregiving, I'm less involved in the project. It's more like social innovation, social project. And now I'm really focused on retirement and future planning. And then we kind of refrain from design for retirement to design for longevity. For a portfolio, and you can see we have like designed the toolkit, and we have like our sponsors launch. We try to engage with them. So different ways we think through design process, they make the experiences more engaging and more fun. And this is our smart home kind of like setup. We translate the normal office space to a smart home. So you can see we have different sensor, Vigo, the walking tablet, the robot, accompanying robot. You can see the cat above. And then it's pretty like a lot of sensor hidden in the space. We didn't capture in the photos. So really fun, and then we invited the users to the space to do the live testing interview to get their thoughts. So it's very like human-centered. You try to not design stuff for the sake of technology. It's actually for the sake of people's needs and desire. So one of my contributions to this project is like put everything together and deliver this to people's home to capture environmental data, their movement data, like all the data we try to capture to do analysis. So you can see a different stage of prototype. And this is very difficult for us because we try to capture this. We did this during the COVID. So everyone's work from home, including myself. So I was trapped in the dorm and used very limited printing power or design power to put things together, right? And then it's really difficult. Even how we deliver the sensor to the participant's home, that's a long process. You have to make sure you're not intrude people's privacy. You have to make sure it's safe. How do you clean? How do you maintain this stuff? And how do you tell people to install the sensors at home? So a lot of like complicated problems behind this. And I also want to share like, this could be really fun. Like, it's not a new idea. So I want to share this because I think as designer, no matter which kind of design, right? Industrial design, graphic design, interaction design, now we even have organizational design or like business designer. We all need to learn how to build our empathy. So this is like Agnes, it's an empathy suit created by AgeLab, like probably like 10 years ago. So we now try to think about the second version. And I want to share with you, we put this on and we kind of redesign our things because of the empathy suit, because we put on the empathy suit. This is like a short clip videos. I'm going to play this right now.
So the MIT Age Lab developed Agnes, the Age Gain Now empathy system, to give the user, typically students or researchers or the companies we work with, that aha moment, empathy, to understand what it would be like to walk in the older consumer's shoes.
It's definitely putting a strain on the mind that this is what aging feels like.
Can't pass that far now.
There's a surprise. It's like, boy, there's a little bit of, shall we say, challenge to doing this. You feel heavy. But then what younger people typically do is they fight. And what I mean by fight is they say, I know I can beat the system. I'm going to run a little faster even though this is slowing me down. I'm going to lift a little harder even though my suit is weighing me down to simulate the muscle loss. And you slow down. You change how you're walking. giving some insight into what needs to be done in our environment, to ourselves and the like, but giving you the idea that you should eat well, you should exercise, to push out what we think is age-associated disability with actually disease-associated disability.
Yeah, so you can see like the idea is like we have goggles, we have the neck thing, we have like a bungee rope to mimic like a muscle loss. So a lot of different things. Also like we have like very high foot sole, so kind of lack of balance. And then this is like really help people to think about redesign our devices or interface for aging population, for senior people. And actually early this, I think May, we just published one paper and workshop in Kai in Germany to talk about how you mimic or redesign the website based on like vision impaired or like senior people. And then we just put on the goggles on, and the goggles have different like vision disease, like they kind of mimic the disease and redesign the whole system. Pretty cool, and it's very interesting, and also for me to rethink the things we design. So kind of build empathy. And I think that's really critical. It's very tiny, but I wear it once, and I probably don't want to wear a second time. It's very humid, it's very hot, it's very difficult to walk. Another video I want to share with you, it's also similar, it's the same empathy suit, and this time HLAD like also collaborate with Disney Plus. We put this together. It's kind of let you guys to look at, oh, this is what HLAD used when we designed a new product.
Is everything? Okay, here we go. Alright. Something wrong with the bad, I think. That's what they always say.
Losing the battle.
Oh my Chris, you're giving up already?
Yeah, right.
Oh, look at that.
Just a lot more difficult than it does look to me.
I like to move it. You like to move it.
It's pretty cool, right? Thor. So Chris, they launched this, and I think in New York, like early this year, and then we saw him in person, and the video was shot in Australia, and it's like it's just amazing. Like you see, he's very strong, and he put on the suit. Also feel like a lot of limitation, physical limitation, and we tried to learn how do we mimic the cognitive limitation for elderly people. And that could influence the way we design, also the whole design process. How do you do the co-creation workshop with the senior people? So this is pretty cool, and I personally feel very inspired, put on the suit and design the stuff. And another project I want to quickly share with you guys is like my master thesis project is like, how do we design the footwear for the senior people? So it's a 3 years project. It's pretty long, and we have a lot of like different types of experiences. The idea is like the reason why I want to design the footwear like slippers, because I think slippers have very different meaning in the context of Eastern and Western, right? So in Eastern culture, for example, in my family, like if you put on the slippers, that means like the difference between indoors and outdoors. Also, it's the difference between like private and public. And this is interesting. And also, when you put on the slipper, it's very natural. It's just like, you don't need to think about it. Just put on the slippers. And how do you design IoT devices on this kind of simple, life-relevant product? So we start with paper prototyping, think about digital interface, think about how you connect with people's daily life, what the journey looks like. So you can see like, we try to capture the journey map from like, oh, you receive the smart slippers, you unpack the packaging, and you connect with your phone. There's a digital touch point. And how do you wear slippers? You step on different like material, like a wood versus carpet, and then you rest, and you go to take a shower, you're sleeping, maybe it's the time for recharging your slippers. So all different scenarios, we try to think about how we can make this product more life relevant, more human-centered. And then I used myself as a guinea pig because I was quarantined during the COVID. And then I have to lock myself in the dorm and try to put the sensor. So you can see, when I lock myself for 12 days, you can see like in this floor plan, how much time and what's the trajectory indoors looks like and feels like. You can see captured by data. It's pretty fun. And the ideas of designing the slippers is not just about the actual product, it's actually about the data. So think about how you can use this like unconscious, invisible data to redesign your whole environment. So one of the examples is like maybe you spend most of your time in your kitchen, you have to redesign the kitchen space to suit your needs, not just about aesthetic part, it's also about your user behavior. So we did that, and then we used like a very simple indoor like a GPS devices and tried to capture people's behavior. And then we published the paper to talk about the next step of the data capturing. So how to explore people's behavior through tracking assistive technologies. And then at the same time, I also think about when we design the slippers, right? What are the interesting manufacture process? Because I want to share one of the story I hear is like when we interview with participant, she's like around 65 years old, and then I asked her about, okay, tell me about the story about you and the connection with your footwear. And then she told me like she went to a doctor for help, and then the doctor just told her like one response about the slippers. But she cannot find the right perfect slippers for her. So the doctor told her like, you know, my suggestion is that you should go to Hawaii. Wow, what does that mean? You should go to Hawaii. That means like you can find slippers. The only way to do that is that you find a place you don't need to wear shoes. That's pretty impressive, right? It's like, oh wow, that's mind-blowing for me as designer. I heard this, I feel so like so many things designers can do to help to change. So that's the side story, and the idea of this, like, we used one CAD model called anthropology, and to measure people's foot pressure and change that into the shoe sole. It's very interesting. You change, it will be save a lot of cost and design process, but it will be tailor-made, 100% customized. And then we did that with Media Lab to do the co-creation workshop with all the undergrad kids, graduate kids, and because this is also in the middle of the COVID, so I'm just afraid to invite the real senior people in the class, so we do the Zoom call. You can see the design process changing, and it's very open, dynamic. It's pretty fun, and also like can really see like how designers translate from people's story to the real design solution at the early stage. We definitely do some survey and share with some of our sponsor and the project lead to talk about the next step of this project. And also have some exhibition at MIT Museum to talk about this interesting process and how we overcome the challenge of COVID. Because imagine these are like, this is so tangible project, but how do you do this only through the Zoom call, all the screen? So it's really, really difficult, and it's really, really challenging for me. And now I'm going to talk about part of our research is like focus on design for longevity. And this is like a year-long project for now, and then we really want to talk about people's retirement plan and what's the perception of people's, when we talk about money, talk about retirement, talk about longevity. So why aging, right? You can see obviously like we're in the aging, even super aging society now. The number tell us like we have more than people over 60 years old, and then the percentage double. And then we already shift from traditional 3-stage life. You learn, you earn, and retire, to multi-stage, right? It's like the ideas of retirement is it's fake, it's make up, right? You retire, but how do you live with purpose? And how to design that, and how do we rethink about that, right? And then, so our infrastructure needs to be changed. Our medical, our healthcare, our finance system needs to be changed in order to cater the multi-generational culture, right? Like, how do we prepare for multi-generational workforce, the environment, the cultures, like people over 75, they're still working in the company, and do we have that policy to protect people? And do we have that culture to tolerate, to understand, to embrace the change, right? And how do we even erase ageism to embrace the truly inclusivity in organization? And then how do we change our mindset around aging to consider stage of longevity as opposed to age merely as a numbers? So these are like big change, big shift. And I feel like one of the opportunities is like people want to have good quality of lives, but you have to know, you have to strategically invest yourself. So financial planning is pretty important. And then we did like kind of like some literature review, understanding. So you can see like, normally when we do the prototyping, we prototype products feature, right? And how do we prototype and simulate the services and user experiences? So we're not just talking about physical object, also think about the services. And then the big shift also, like people only talk about age to different stage. That's another big shift. And then you think about, we're not just designing or planning services, also think about how do we quantify and also measure our services quality or system outcomes. So that's kind of like a three important shift for us to think about, oh, what are the opportunities for designers to redesign this project and the process? It's pretty amazing. Like I never think about that before I doing this project. So as designer, we also think about how can we make this process more tangible, right? Because financial planning or design for retirement is really private. It's pretty like sensitive topic and also very abstract. So we try to think about, we have the one framework from my boss, Dr. Joe Coughlin, 8,000 days. So everyone's supposed to have like 4 8,000 days, from 0 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 100. So you have like 4 stages, 4 8,000 days. So we kind of build that 4 stages, make it tangible, interesting, and playful. The whole research question and idea is like, how to redesign the financial planning services through like 4 lenses, like through the approach, the human side, the system side, technology side, to address like different life stages. So when we talk about design for longevity, it's not just focused on people retire or people going to retire. We also think about the early stage, young adults. We think about people going to retire like 55 before 65 or people above 65. So, and also to transform, enhance, and refine financial literacy, strategy, and well-being. So for human part, like how can the service design and social innovation address global aging obstacles? And then for the system, right, how do the roles and responsibility of financial advisors and their customized services need to evolve? How do we change, right? We're not just talking about money, we talk about different aspects of life. And if we view service as a technology, so how can the service design, human-centered design, and system thinking innovate financial planning tools, services, and platforms to increase people's financial literacy and enhance their multi-generational perspective? And the last piece is like, the value of this project is, that could be tied to the website design, the digital design. It's like, how can we study, document, understand, and synthesize elderly people's verbal and non-verbal behavior and interaction with financial artifacts and services? What I'm trying to say that is like, before COVID, we last used like Zoom call or online communication platform, right? And during the COVID, we used a lot. And then we have like a bunch of group people call like 85 plus lifestyle panels. So normally they will we'll catch up with them like once per month, twice per month. And now they need to learn how to use the Zoom call. So the funny thing is like, they will like, we have the Zoom call, right? And then they'll say, can you see me? Can you see me? And then we only see their forehead. And then, you know, yes, we have beautiful like a website design, interface design, but how do you allow senior people or aging people to use with their intuition, right? And a lot of people have like hearing issues, so they cannot really hear what you say. So most of the time when we facilitate the online discussion, you know, like designer or a researcher, we will do like a discussion guide, right? But the thing is like, once they talk, they cannot stop. They just keep talking. They just start to making friends, make connection, maybe dating, I don't know. It's just like, it'd be super fun to see the interesting dynamic, right? So how does technology can help us? What are the approach we can study them? This is an interesting topic for us to study. And then that's kind of the overall topic. And then for us, we can use a very simple framework to understand our services and the toolkit. I will go through this later. So if we view, sorry, this is clear. If you view like services, right, we can think about, if more invisible, we think about it's experience design. It's more tangible, visible, we think about product design. So services is kind of like in between. So I think website depends on how you define website design or like a digital design. It could be more toward experiences. And then for the trend, we could think about 3 different models. One is like people-centered model. One is like technology-centered model. And something in between we call hybrid. So one of the example you could think, very experience-driven, people-centered is like hospitality services, right? You go to hotel, people remember your name, greeting you and help you to do the check-in, right? That's the people-centered, experience-driven. Versus like technology-centered model, and it's very like product-driven. For example, like autonomous vehicle. They drive for you, right? They deliver the product to your home through like drone. Something between we call hybrid. One of example you could think about, if you go to airport, there's a self-check-in services, right? Self-check-in, you could do it by yourself, but at the same time, there's like a staff will stand next to it to help you do the check-in. So that's what we call like a hybrid model. And that helps us think about the whole financial planning industry. Like, if it's like people-centered, experience design, it's more like a traditional financial planning consultation services. And for the technology-driven, technology-centered, more like a product, it could be like a robo-advisors or like chatbot, right? You chat with people online, they will respond to you based on their system, their algorithm. And then something in between, we could think about financial planning apps. You could call for a real person's help, but you could also do it by yourself. So these are kind of, we can map most of the services in this like simple 2x2 framework. And then we also publish this learning in the book chapter, and it will come out this August. And also have like, we have 4 book chapter publishing, we have conference paper, and we also publish like blogs, column, and the HLab website. And we also have in-common journal and books, and have exhibition in Italy early this month, last month, sorry. So these kind of, we do the whole research, and based on, we talk about the framework, the model, and also people's ideas about design for retirement, design for longevity. And I also want to share about how we capture this data. So data collection, data gathering, and also data analysis. So you can see like, this is a complicated research topic, so we try to use like multiple different ways and methods. So data collection, you can see like we have co-creation workshop, expert interview, user interview, survey. The format could be in person, virtual, hybrid, and how we do the analysis, qualitative, quantitative, and then I'm going to use like 4 examples to talk about it. So the first one is, it's an in-person co-creation workshop and work in pairs. So we invite 8 designers from different backgrounds. There's a branding, communication, graphic, and they all come to the lab, and then we do the co-creation workshop to focus on how do you design for longevity toolkit. So only have, I think like an hour time. So we have 8 cameras with a Zoom call to capture their content, their verbal content, use the GoPro 360 camera to capture overall behavior. It's very cool, and then we do analysis afterwards. And pretty cool paper prototype, rapid prototype to get ideas in a relatively low cost. And we also do like connect with family, to do the cube with family, to see how different generations communicate ideas about money. And we also do like an expert interview. So we talk with design educator, financial advisor, service designer from various like domain and industries. And pretty cool, like it's really overwhelming. So one of the story I want to share with you guys is like, she's actually from Philips, service designer, in her middle age of her career. And she shared with me, oh, I cannot find my advisor because she don't have that much money, but also she needs some guidance and help. But she don't like talk to a chat robot advisor online. So how do you solve that, right? And then her dad have the great advisor for 30 years. And then how do you, these are interesting dynamic and tension between how do you help younger people to find their advisor and also to improve their financial literacy through the toolkit, through education. And then we also do the interview data analysis. So you can see when we capture people's interview, the process, we try to have all the transcriptions. And then through the transcription, we can coding and also mark which part we want to do analysis. And for example, at this interview, people talk about how much time people talk about trust, efficiency, family, talk about longevity or system. So very interesting to look at the interview in this context, to this method. And then we can find the connection, use very simple like a Sankey diagram to realize, oh, as a service provider, as an advisor, we really connect to the service systems. And we can track in which part of the conversation they talk about that. So it's kind of it's interesting, like, it's, when we design, it's very like personal process, but how can you make it more quantitative and also make it more interesting and convincing? So that's one of the process we use. And we also do the groups in-person workshop. So we invite like a healthcare company, also 8 people from the company. They come to the lab. We kind of redesign the whole financial planning services, like use the service blueprint to look at each touch point. People say, oh, my difficulty is like online, because now we have a lot of online banking, right? And they have some difficulties to understand, is it right to do it? And how to navigate the right path and process to get things done. So this is very interesting, and we capture that, and then you can see people map out the whole process, the whole journey of financial planning. And we also have the host a conference at MIT to talk about the future planning and how do you project yourself in the future. What is longevity coach? Longevity means in the context of finance. And how do you walk longevity clients' shoes? So you really want to think about what happened for the whole industry in the lens of longevity, in the lens of service design. So because of that, this is the early stage of research. So we don't have answer, but we try to have some expected outcome out of this research in terms of human system approach and technology. So I won't go to this into detail. The idea is because we're still testing, we still try to understand the whole process and people's expectation. And then we also want to design something very immersive. So the next step is like, we're not just trying to design something tangible to work, we also design the whole experiences. So this is the thing we imagine of the future longevity planning services. Like, it's engaging, we have cards, we have tangible toolkit, we have blocks, we have interactive map, and how do we design that out of this, like, this topic? So it's really like interesting also how to engage with the younger generation, because design for retirement sounds like very like far away topic, right? So imagine you talk about, oh, we're going to design for retirement. Nobody wants to listen to it because it sounds kind of very serious. But if we say design for longevity, we have to do something now. And then you can see we try to design not just like physical, I think about the content, how do we get people's feedback. And this is really like a multi kind of like sensory kind of project. And we're still in the process of prototyping this kind of like interesting D4L design for longevity experiences in studio. And different like configuration, playing with the cube. How do you use the play, serious play in this kind of a context and topic? That's where very interesting. The card, the storytelling, the scenario, and all these like cards we kind of synthesize from the research, come with like 13 keywords with 13 different types of scenarios, and that's it, I think.